Hey everybody, Roar of the Lions UK, Matt and Ash here, just awaiting Ant's arrival, so we're just going to be chatting with you guys for a few minutes. Hope everyone's well. Haven't seen you all for a couple of weeks, so hope you're good. Lions, Ash, 2 and 0 since I've been away, so I'm thinking I should go on holiday more often.
Stole the joke out my mouth. I was at least going to say that. Why did you come back? We're not the ones with the perfect records. And should be here because he's the one that's got the perfect record so far in watching. He's watched 3 games live and we've won all 3. So we need to get him on the call. And I know certain people will also be happy with that as well. His dry style of commentating compared to my madness running into the next bedroom next door to Kirby Joseph jersey just because he's got an interception.
You mad person. Hey to everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us early, including Brent DeWitt, Mile Marker, Contrapastan, Chris Brown, Perry Ball. Hope you're all well. If you're in the chat, want to say hi, please do. We are so very close to 2,000 subscribers. We're at 1990 right now. So if you haven't subscribed yet, we just need another 10. So anything you can do on YouTube, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Mark says, you look relaxed. I've just come off the golf course, so I'm anything but relaxed. Some people think that golf is relaxing, but I know better. My heart rate was about 130 the whole time. What's up?
Harvey on third, Parker Meadows on first.
Oh, yeah, you got there too. That's safe. We are watching the Tigers hopefully clinch the ALWCS against the Guardians. It's 2-1 to the Tigers at the top of the 7th with runners on first and third. And no outs. It's a big opportunity for the Tigers. Please, please, please. That would be great. Have they pulled their picture as well? Looks like they have.
They've pulled their picture, and I think we've got someone running for Parker.
Okay, fair. Mike says, if Matt's return can make the Lions lose to the Bengals, he may have some serious magic powers. It's possible. Anything's possible. Although we'll get into the Bengals, and God help us if we lose to these guys. I don't want to be too disparaging, but my word.
I mean, hell, my friends that I was on the podcast with on Tuesday, the number 1 Bengals podcast, which was a trip experience for anyone who's actually seen the footage of that, they were disparaging of the Bengals, so we're allowed to be.
And how you doing, my guy?
I'm good, how are you?
Tired. Very, very tired. But hey, I was just saying to Ash in the pre-show, I played 18 holes just before coming here. And I went out in 63, but I came back in 42, which might be my best 9 holes stretch ever.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Can't complain at that.
I was absolutely delighted, but if it was anything but relaxing, I've had my heart rate above 100 for about the last 4 hours. So, and I think normally you're meant to see a doctor after that.
You are. Yes.
Sorry, physician. You have to call it a physician, don't you, if you're going to refer to that sort of thing?
Yeah.
But there we go. Are you enjoying the Tigers at the moment?
And it's a good game. It's fun.
It feels like yesterday a little bit.
It's been very close the entire series, for the most part.
I think that resembles what the whole division's been this year anyway.
Weird part is they've only been behind for like 2 innings in this entire series.
The Tigers
have been able to put them away, yeah. Only those last 2 yesterday.
Yeah. Many thanks to... Oh, the alert came up saying they've been a member for a month in the supporters tier, but it doesn't say who. Well, thank you for whoever that is. Contrapastan says hilarious puppet pod.
It was really funny.
All right. Ooh, shall we do this?
Yeah.
All right.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 364. 4-1, the chase is on. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How you doing, boys?
Doing good, doing good. Just nervously watching the Tigers hopefully pull out a series clinching win against the Guardians, and let's hope two Tiger-based teams don't destroy Detroit Hearts this week.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I saw the grimmest film ever earlier today, which was really good. The Long Walk. So I'm now ready for something a little more lighthearted, talking about a Lions blowout victory at the weekend. That'll get me back to where I need to go.
Actually, to be fair, you with the hoodie on, with the headphones over it, did have me wondering. It's
Yeah,
cold
it's a
out
bit,
there as well,
it's a
though.
bit, it's a bit nippy this week. So I'm having all my radiators fixed tomorrow, so I don't have the heating on at the minute. So
Oh,
gets a
Jesus
bit.
Christ.
So yes, my bald head needs some heat every now and then.
All right, let's crack on with this Bengals preview show. We've got a little bit of news. Then we're going to go into the team, look at the matchups, the statistics of it all. It's not pretty reading if you're a Bengals fan, and yet they're still 2-2. So, could always be worse. But first, please do join our Discord channel. Great place to be to chat with all of us and chat with the wonderful community that we have built. The link is in the live chat right now. I should mention actually at this point as well, we are hosting a Detroit Lions UK meetup. It is going to be next Sunday for Sunday Night Football. Lions against Kansas City Chiefs in London at the Hippodrome Casino, where they show all of the NFL games on a Sunday. It's just after the Denver-London game, if anyone is going to that. But if anyone's interested, if you're listening to this podcast, we're going to assemble in the Hippodrome Casino from about 6 o'clock UK time for the 1 p.m. Eastern slate in the US. So, we'd love to see you there. Get in touch on our socials if you want to have our contact details so that we can meet up or what have you. But it'd be great to see you all. Right. College Football Podcast, and you did yesterday. What did you talk about?
Did the stats leaders through most major categories after 5 weeks. Just see who started off the season really hot, and then chatted about week 5. 6 ranked teams lost. That's always a fun week to talk about things.
Oh, Perez with bases loaded with a base hit and 2 come home for the Tigers?
Yep.
4-1. Let's go. Lions Nation Unite, please go and support them. They do some really great work. Herman Moore's project's been the best Lions content creators together and appears on a lot of the shows that those guys put out there. So do go and support them, and do like this episode and sub to the podcast too. And we are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar down below in the YouTube chat as well. News. There is a major injury for the Lions. Cornerback DJ Reed goes to IR. He's got between a grade 2 and a grade 3 hamstring tear, was it? That could rule him out for between anything from 6 weeks to 3 months, I think is the popular kind of thought. The grade 2, grade 3 kind of tends to be in that sort of range. They were umming and ahhing about putting him on IR. He now goes, so he misses at least the next 4 games, which is a shame, especially considering how well he played actually in the last 2 weeks. He'd been phenomenal. Corresponding moves, signed to the main roster from the practice squad. Safety Lawrence Strickland, who actually made the main roster last season, and linebacker Ty Summers. Signed to the practice squad in their place, cornerback Trey Flowers and cornerback Nick Whiteside. And the 21-day practice window has been opened on Wednesday for defensive tackle Aleem the Dream McNeil. Boys, the door is open for any jokes you would now like to make about this week's news.
Oh, you mean certain person being able to extend their highlight reel?
Something like that.
At least that's one ticks off. I'll wait till Saturday night to see the other joke I've got cooked up about that.
I mean, get your bingo card out. We've had a highlight reel joke. There we go. Anyone got a house yet? And what do you make of this all? I mean, Whiteside had himself a good camp, but Aleem coming back. I know Reed is a big loss, but Aleem coming back could be huge for this team.
Yeah. It'll do wonders for the defensive line when he's back. So it's gonna be good to have him back. But Reed being out is a big problem now because it leaves you a big hole in your corner room. And if it's on the longer scale of that 3 months, you ain't getting him back till the playoffs. So that's a long time to go without him. And then of course he's going to be cold going into the playoffs. So. I think this changes maybe your timeline at going out there and looking, see what's available, and see if there's anyone you can bring in to bolster up that roster. Because you got guys like Whiteside and that, but they ain't gonna come in and starting week one for you. So if I was Brad, I'd certainly be looking now at what's available.
The Tigers have
6-1
just got another
Tigers.
2 runs. 6-1 Tigers, top of the 7th. Ash, thoughts on these pieces of news, these moves?
So yeah, Reed, it's a bit concerning, as we said. Like, you're completely right. He's been playing elite the last couple of weeks. Against Baltimore, he travelled against Zay Flowers and pretty much erased him. This week against the Browns, he travelled with Jerry Jeudy, and up until his injury, pretty much shut him down. So he's going to be a big loss. I know, obviously, we were looking to get Meek more reps on the outside anyway, but with the shoulder injury to Arnold, I know it's and on about whether he'll be available. Like one day where he's not going to be available, and then you look at his practice and maybe he will be. But we need depth there because as much as I love Rocky Sin, he's had a roughy career. Khalil Dorsey, he's good in spurts, but he doesn't really have the frame to hold up on the outside too much. And then, we've signed Nick Whiteside, who did well for us in the preseason, but can he be trusted on reliable snaps? And Trey Flowers, who is a journeyman vet, he's done a lot, but he's on a downswing of his career. Can he play reasonable reps for us? Literally what I wrote the entire first bit of my preview about. So look at the stats there. But at least we've got some depth there. Hopefully we'll probably elevate one or the other of the practice squad guys come Saturday to be on the main roster, because we're going to need that depth. Because I know one of the big things with us making the initial 53 is, we've got all this versatility on the back end. We need some players who can reliably play outside corner right now, because losing both Arnold and Reed this week has really hurt us, especially when we're coming up against, the Triple Crown winner from last year in Jamar Chase, and then T. Higgins, who is perhaps one of the best number 2 receivers in the league.
All right, let's talk Bengals then. So they're 2-2, as I mentioned. Their expected wins, according to Pro Football Reference, is 0.7. They shouldn't even have one win. That is how close their victories have been and how bad their losses have been. So they started out with a win at Cleveland 17-16 and a win versus Jacksonville 31-27. 3-1 Jacksonville, by the way. Before losses at Minnesota 48-10 and then most recently at Denver 28-3. The betting for this game, Detroit are massive favourites. They are 11-2 on. That is minus 550. Cincinnati are 4-1. That's plus 400. Detroit are 10-point favourites on the spread, and the over/under is 49.5. In terms of the injury report, several people not practicing for both teams. For the Lions, most notably Zach Cunningham, linebacker, tackle Taylor Decker, safety Kirby Joseph, and running back Sione Vaki. Terry and Arnold and Khalil Dorsey both full practice today. Dorsey is fighting against a concussion. He'll need to have another full practice on Friday, and he can make it.
Justin Rogers said with him practicing full today, he's made out of concussion protocol. Usually it's no practice, limited full practice, but with him blocking a full practice today, he's officially out of concussion protocol, so he could play it on Sunday.
Thank you. Limited Aleem, as we talked about, but apparently he looks phenomenal in training. The reviews have been rave from the Lions coaches, and it kind of feels like training camp all over again when we talk about that sort of thing. I don't expect that Aleem is going to actually play this week and be activated, but we've seen stranger things. For the Bengals, no Charlie Jones or first round pick Shamar Stewart at the edge at practice so far. All limited today, centre Matt Lee, cornerback Daxton Hill, and defensive end BJ Hill. And then Noah Fant, it was also in concussion protocol. He logged a full practice today, so like with Khalil Dorsey, he's probably out of the protocol as well. Looking at this team in terms of their injured reserve, they're obviously missing the one player that really matters. Quarterback Joe Burrow is there, and he's not expected to be back until the latter part of this season, if at all. Also on their guard, Lucas Patrick, guard Cordell Volson, and on the PUP is tight end Eric All. Looking at this team and their depth chart, if I'd actually loaded this before, that would have been absolutely fantastic. Quarterback then is Jake Browning, as mentioned. Backup is Brett Ripien. Running backs are Chase Brown, Samaji P. Ryan, and Taj Brooks. Wide receivers Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Andre Yoshivas, backed up by Jermaine Burton, Charlie Jones, and Mitch Tinsley. Tight ends Mike Kazicki, backed up by Drew Sample, Noah Fant, Cam Grandy, and Tanner Hudson. And then on the offensive line, left tackle Orlando Brown Jr., left guard Dylan Fairchild, centre Ted Karras, right guard Dalton Risner, and right tackle Amarius Mims. They are backed up by Matt Lee, Jalen Rivers, and Cody Ford. On the defense, they play in a base nickel, 4-2-5. The down four is Joseph Osai, TJ Slayton, BJ Hill, and Trey Hendrickson, backed up by Shamar Stewart, Mike Pennell, Chris Jenkins Jr., and Miles Murphy, as well as McKinley Jackson, Howard Cross III, and Cam Sample. Two linebackers are Demetrius Knight and Logan Wilson. They're backed up by Oren Burks, Barrett Carter, and Shaka Hayward. The nickel starter is Dax Hill. Outside corners, DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt, backed up by Marco Wilson, Josh Newton, and DJ Ivy. And the safeties, Jordan Battle and Geno Stone, backed up by PJ Jules and Tyson Anderson. The punter is Ryan Rakow. The kicker is Evan McPherson. Long snapper, William Wagner. And when it comes to looking at the Bengals team, we'll go into the stats of how bad it has been so far. But on the face of it, it's not much difference. There's not much difference to what it was last year. This is just a Burrow-less team that I think is pretty flawed, and it's showing up that really he's been the guy elevating everyone around him, and when he's not on the field, this is... Maybe you don't agree. For me, this is a decidedly average team.
I mean, when a team loses its starting quarterback, I mean, any team can look decidedly average when that guy goes down and the backup comes in, and, it's... On the face of it, there's a lot of talent there, but, you're losing a top 5 quarterback in the league, and you've got probably a league low backup. That is a huge difference, and it has a big knock-on effect on the team. Not only does it affect your offense and how that works and how effective it can be, but when you've got the backup in, you're not out there as long. They've not won time of possession a single game this year. Even the games that they've won. Last game, nearly 40 minutes on the clock for Denver. When your offense isn't churning and it's not staying out on the field for long, it's putting pressure on your defense, and you've got some star players on your defense as well, but they just can't keep playing for so much every single week. So, the quarterback being out affects the team in more than just its offense. It affects its defense. It affects all aspects of it. And you can tell right now that's what's happening with this team. They're just not able to score points. They can't get the defense off the field. They're falling far behind. They're having to play gung-ho football, turning it over. Teams are allowed to bring pressure against them, forcing all these fumbles and whatnot, and it just strikes everything out of line. And that is what will happen to a lot of NFL teams when their starter goes down. So I don't really know where this Bengals team is at currently without him, because his injury has affected them in so many different ways. So yeah, in terms of us, like you look at other teams that have beaten them and that, and you're like, yeah, the route to this is really clear. You just got to keep hammering away at them, and eventually they'll buckle because they can't fight back at you. But, the Burrow injuries just caved everything in for them. Absolutely everything. And, it's just, you can see it week in, week out, the effect it's had all throughout that side.
I mean, Ash, I know they came up against Cleveland week 1, but even with Burrow, that was a real struggle. And then against Jacksonville, they really couldn't put that team away. A team at that point, maybe people were considering they're not quite as good as maybe people think Jacksonville might be now. But even with Burrow, this kind of looked like a struggle with Browning. He's not a bad quarterback, but it's a terribly bad situation to put him in. I mean, Burrow, you were already not really putting around him a terrifically good offensive line. Now you're chucking Brownie into this. It's going very badly.
Yeah, but don't tell Bengals fans that, because you look at their discourse and all they're talking about is which QB should we trade for to try and right the ship, which QB should we trade for to right the ship, not looking at the overall situation they've got. Yes, they've got two damn good outside good receivers. Oshavas, we really liked in the draft process as well as their slot. Jermaine Burton, when he decides to play, is a good speed threat. And then Charlie Jones and Mitch Tinsley are good speed options as well, though a bit smaller. Chase Brown's a good running back. Samaje Perine's done stuff in the league. Taj Brooks, well, anyone who watched college know how good Taj Brooks is, how much he carried alone for Texas Tech. But it comes down to that offensive line. They've invested in it. They've given Orlando Brown Jr. their bag for some reason. They brought in Ted Karras, who is a league average, if slightly below that center, but is a good vet. He's been there. Dalton Risner is a good individual guard. He's had some good years. Marius Mims and Jalen Fairchild have drafted from Georgia. They've put a lot into this offensive line, but it just isn't clicking. And last year they could blame the defense, and they've now fired the defensive coordinator. He's gone elsewhere, and they've brought in Al Golden, who's the former Notre Dame guy. Hence the focus on linebackers for them, was getting to in a bit. They can't really blame the defense this time. It is 100% on the offensive line, and it's on Zach Taylor for not adjusting his offense. The offense is 100% built for Burrow and what he's good at, and Taylor hasn't adjusted. He's just put Jake Browning in there, and he's just said, go run the offense. It's not been much adjustment to what he does. He's not as mobile as Joe Burrow. He can't do the sort of timing throws as well. So it has devolved into, at least what I saw when I watched the Broncos game, it's either chuck it up deep to one of the outside receivers, hope they come down the contested ball or the draw DPI, or it's chuck it short and try and rely on Yak. It's not working for them. And unfortunately for them this week, with the way our defense is playing, even with the injuries at outside corner, the way our defensive line's playing, I don't know how Browning's going to do it again. He's just going to fold.
So overall, this team by PFF is the 31st team in the NFL. Offense is 30th, defense is 24th, special teams 22nd. By DVOA, it's the 30th overall team. And by EPA, they are 31st, with the offense 30th and the defense 24th. So all the major statistical metrics out there are showing a very similar story. This team is bad and has been bad. That has been driven actually basically by the offense, and the defense has been not good but better than the offense, which is a bit of a shift from what has been true for the Bengals recently. They are led by Jake Browning, as we've mentioned. He is this year 54 of 84, which is 64%, for 506 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 picks, for a passer rating of 67.9 and a QBR of 68. His PFF grade of 59.7. Chase Brown's the lead back. He has 57 carries for 133 yards and a touchdown. That's 2.3 yards per carry. Yikes. He's 11 of 14 for 74 yards through the air and a PFF grade of 54.6. So even though he's only going at 2.5 yards a carry or so, his PFF grade isn't a disaster, which really goes to show how bad the offensive line has been for him. Jamar Chase, as mentioned, Triple Crown winner, reigning champion, 26 of 35, 264, 10.2 yards per catch and a touchdown. PFF grade of 72.3. T. Higgins is 10 of 20, 136 for 1, and a PFF grade of 67. And then Noah Fatner's been the lead tight end in terms of yards. He's 12 of 14 for 80 and a touchdown and a PFF grade of 63.6. There is no one well graded outside of that. And even those aren't particularly well graded. The only one you could really point to is Jamar Chase. Everyone else has been letting the side down, frankly. It's been a team effort in being bad. Other really bad grades in there. Yoshavas, the wide receivers, are 49. Dalton Risner, the guard, 46. Amarius Mims, the tackle, 45. Dylan Fairchild, the rookie guard, is a 44. And then backup tight end, but taking a fair amount of snaps, Drew Samples, a 42.2. This team is 23rd on third down, converting 36% of the time. They've only gone for it once on fourth down, and they got it. That makes them first in the league, but, sample size. In the red zone, They are 8th in the NFL, converting 2/3 of the time. But get this, you've played 4 games. They have made 9 red zone trips total. That is horrendous. Against them, their defense have faced 18 red zone trips. They've only been there 9. That is why they are losing games. On the defense, defensive tackle Chris Jenkins is leading the team with 1.5 sacks, 15 tackles, 7 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 59.2. Trey Hendrickson, the back-to-back sack leader in the NFL, was that right? Maybe I'm wrong. He's an exceptionally good edge defender. Obviously sat out for a good amount of camp trying to get a new deal. Didn't resolve particularly well, I don't think, but he's still there. Got some sort of incentives. 1 pass defended, 2 sacks, 11 tackles, 8 of which solo, 2 TFL, 6 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 78.3. Linebacker Logan Wilson has 3 passes defended, 25 tackles, 12 solo, and a PFF grade of 57. Lead corner is DJ Turner, who, low-key, I think has been exceptional in the last 2 games with some really nice plays. The PFF grade maybe doesn't show that on a down-to-down basis, but he's got 1 pick, 5 passes defended, 10 tackles, and a PFF grade of 56.7. And then Jordan Battle, the safety, he looked good in college, and no surprise, he's doing okay. 2 interceptions, 2 picks, 32 tackles, PFF grade of 66.5. Other grades in there, the backup linebacker Oren Burks is a 70. Defensive end rookie first rounder Shamar Stewart 69.7, and nickel Dax Hill was 69.1, and safety Geno Stone 66.9. But starting linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr. is only a 43.2 on the season. On third down, they are 30th in the NFL, which means they haven't really had to face many 4th downs, but they've turned away 3 of 6, making them 10th. In the red zone, they've given up 2/3, 12 of 18. That makes them 24th in the NFL. Boys, to turn it back to you here, and statistically, this team has been suffering. It's been suffering in terms of production. The entire offense is kind of falling under its own weight with Burrow not there. And then on the defensive side of things, individual good moments by players. Hendrickson is still Hendrickson. And, I mentioned DJ Turner, I think Dax Hill, Geno Stone, Jordan Battle, all these guys in bits and pieces have been doing well, but when the offense isn't giving them any assistance whatsoever, especially with all the short fields that they've been giving teams, it's going to be so hard for this defense to keep up.
Yeah, and again, this is why you kind of don't know fully where this system's at, because, the situations they're getting put in are very difficult situations. They're getting put under pressure early. They're not getting much rest on the field, and the front 4 is quite experienced. But then you look at the secondary. 4 of those starters have only been in the league since 2022 or later. It's a younger secondary, so there's a lot of pressure on them. There's not many vested vets in there at this point. So when the pressure's on, you've got no one to command, no one to help you out. But it's really tough. If Burrow was there and this offense was doing well, the defense would probably read a hell of a lot better, because it has 2-star edge rushers. Like, it has 2 great edge rushers there, and you've got really good talent in your linebacker spots as well. You do have playmakers in your secondary. They're 3rd in the league in interceptions this year, so you've got to be careful. They can take the ball from you. Trouble is, they give the ball away a lot as well. That turnover differential is already at -3 for them. It's +4 for us. We're a lot better. When you're losing the ball all the time, it's giving your defense short fields to work with, unfavorable positions. You've seen a lot of these points where the drives are kind of, they're left on a hiding to nothing. So, it's if you get in a point where you give this defense a chance and their offense is able to stay out a bit, I think it's better than it's been made out to be so far. So you've got to be careful in this one, because I say again, the whole quarterback been out just whiffs the entire look on this team. So it's a muddied picture. After 4 weeks, it can be a lot better than it is on paper, and you've got to give it respect. And if you treat them right, then you will absolutely blow them out the water. But if you kind of go into it with a little bit of, oh yeah, we'll walk this attitude, there's parts on there that can bite you. So you just have to be very careful with these guys. They've invested a lot on this defense. They've invested a lot of good picks into it. They've invested a good amount of money into it. So, yeah, I think just be careful is the word of the day with this here. But put it under pressure and it's shown it will break.
And Ash, when the defense has been going up against it so much and the offense hasn't been firing very much, what's become clear is whenever they get a sniff of the red zone, that a bit of desperation's kind of creeping in because they know if they don't come away with those touchdowns, when's the next opportunity going to come around? And so, you can feel the amount of pressure that this team is under in every possession, that it feels like if they don't come away with maximum points every time, that they're going to again collapse under their own weight, kind of.
Yeah, and the sad thing is the offense can definitely feel it, but again, Busatele, he hasn't adjusted to that. He is still playing so conservative with things. Even in that Denver Broncos game on Monday Night Football, they had the reasonably good start where they managed to get the field goal. That was the last time they were in Denver territory for the rest of the game. There were some situations that was like 4th and 1, 4th and 2, where, we know as Lions fans, Dan Campbell will be like in that situation, but we need to go for this. We need to steal possessions because the defense needs a bit of help. We need to steal a couple of possessions. They don't just punt it away, and it puts that defense under such pressure because if they're playing so many snaps every game, they're going to get tired, especially with how they like to set up their defensive line where, yeah, they've got good edge rushers, but all their defensive tackles are big run stoppers. They're not really there to play, 50, 60 snaps. And so they get tired and they start, and then by the end of the games, it means teams can just run the ball and it just forces the offense into worse and worse situations where they're like, okay, we've got to get 2 scores in the next 10 minutes. They start forcing the ball and it forces those turnovers. And then it doesn't help, obviously, because defenses know that then they can stack the box with initially, stop the run. And then when they know that the Bengals offense is behind it, they can suddenly lighten up the box, start pass rushing, leave less people in think because they know that they're not going to run the ball. They're just going to try and pass, and they can just tee off on that send four, drop the rest into coverage, and force them to dink and dunk their way down the field and let them make the mistake that turns the ball over. It's just the same week in, week out. And while for most people, at least outsiders, we don't have as good as a defense as Denver do, with the best cornerback in the league and Nick Bonito, who's up there in league pressures again this season. We can do the same. We stop the run, have Tyreek and DJ Reader there, and then Hutch will be able to come into his own, and it will hopefully take some pressure off the cornerbacks because we can play a lot of zone, and that makes it a bit easier for them. Just have eyes on the QB and the receiver and pick him off. Nice and simple, hopefully.
All right, let's turn our attention to the matchup specifically. And I'm going to look at our run game against their run defense. And if you have a look at this defense, you mentioned before about them having some really good edge rushes in there. I mean, TJ Slayton from Green Bay, we knew that he, could stop the run very effectively in Green Bay, and missing him now he's gone. This team likes to get after teams in the run. It's pretty aggressive. And Osai or Stewart and Hendrickson on the edges, they can, crush things pretty well. So they come up against a Lions team who actually have been the only successful team against the Browns this year on the ground. And I say successful in inverted commas because it wasn't that successful on a down-to-down basis, but they did do some damage. So you're looking at maybe one of the best run offenses in the NFL against I would say above average run defense unit, but I think you've got to be backing our lads in this matchup specifically.
I mean, over the last 3 games, they're averaging 164 yards of rushing against them per game. It's one of the worst in the NFL. It's the Browns game where the Browns didn't run for anything. I'm skew with the figures, but 164 yards per game you're giving up, and we're an above average run defense. That's coming up against some. I know they've played the Ravens and whatnot, but it's still a lot to give up in a game. And we've got 2 different types of running backs who can hit you in 2 different types of ways. Whether we're going to attack your edge rushers with a speedier guy or we're going to break through your interior with Monty, we will find a way to have a go at you. And when you're getting tired because your offense isn't out there all the time and you're going to be defending 40, 50 runs a game, we've seen this year that a lot of teams start feisty against us and have a little bit of fight in them and they get a little frisky early on, score a few points. the common denominator with all the rest of these teams is eventually we break you down and eventually you can't hang with us. And the amount of rushing yards they're giving up a game indicates to me that, they can't hang there and they're having a lot of issues with it. And with us, who are one of the best run blocking units in the league, period. This is where you go to town on them. Don't put the ball in the hands of their secondary. Their secondary can pick it off out the air. They've shown that they could be the ones who get the turnovers. Let's take them out of the game. Let's take them out of the game and nullify any threat this defense has and take the edge rushers out with it. So for me, this is where you put the big ass bullseye here. You just run and you run and you run and you break them apart. That is what Michigan teams do very well when they go to Ohio. They just break them with brute force.
Ash, I don't know how you feel on this one, because I see the yards against, but for me, and Ant alluded to this before, the time of possession is a thing for me which works against this run defense, because on a down-to-down basis, I'd look at it and I don't think it's that bad in terms of how it does play to play, but if you are on the field for 40 minutes, and as Ant was saying about breaking them apart, they do break.
Yeah, they really do. Like, you look at, obviously, again, as you said, because they're on the field for 40 minutes, their metrics aren't that good, but you just look at the down-to-down stuff, and they aren't that good. So they allowed the 8th worst rushing success rate with 44.7. So that means that on average, roughly half the runs that they're facing get the minimum stuff that's needed for success rate. For a team that's supposed to set up against the run, that's the entire thing, kind of like us, where their defense tackles are set up to defend the run. Their edge rushers, like Trey Hendrickson, good as a pass rusher, but he's really good in run defense as well. And with Al Golden, he's focused with the linebackers on run defense. The fact that that happens is just not good for them. And then you look at their EPA rush given up as well, and it's slightly better in a way. In a slight way. So they give up roughly a 20th point per rush against, which doesn't sound too bad. And then you look and it's the 6th worst. Admittedly, we've got up against one of the teams that's worse than them, and maybe we caused that with the Baltimore, which is second with literally a 10th for a point given up per rush. But it is one of them where, because you're going to get that success rate, it's not like last week where honestly we were just running Monty into the Browns defensive line just to keep them honest. This week, you do it because eventually he is going to break one. He's going to have one of those runs like he did against the Ravens where 2 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 72 yards. They're the kind of defense that gives up that, despite that being their thing. So it's tough. It's a tough matchup for them because, yeah, going up against Quinton Junks, you know how to go against him. They've come up against one type of running back. This week, when they come up against Monty and Gibbs, who, yeah, they've both really good running backs that do have that slightly different system. Because they both can do the things, they both can run outside zone, both can do inside zone, both can do duo and all this. There's no way for them to key off like they could against Junkins or they could against RJ Harvey, where you see them on the field, you're like, they're going to run this particular kind of run. This week, we could hit them with absolutely anything, and that's without even thinking about end arounds and orbit motions and all that to J-Mo and to Khalif and to Amon-Ra getting the ball in their hands. They're going to have a real tough time keying off against our run game, unfortunately.
Let's talk about the Lions' passing game now, and it fired enough against the Ravens, certainly. Last week, obviously the J-Mo and Jared connection has been talked about ad nauseum, but Laporta has certainly hit the ground running now. He looks like he's such a weapon once again, and Khalif has really come alive recently, as well as Amon-Ra just being Amon-Ra. Goff, his deep ball throwing has come under question from some national media pundits, which we were talking about on our Discord channel quite a bit. But he had some misfires last week, which is undoubtable. And you already mentioned about not necessarily throwing on this team because you can ground and pound them. But if we do decide to go to the air, what do you make of this matchup against people like DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, Dax Hill, Geno Stone, Cam Taylor-Britt? That those guys are no slouches. Those are all reasonable names back there.
They are, but they've given up the third most passing yards per game in the league. Again, shows a massive, in both disciplines, they're giving up yards. They're giving up 262 yards a game. And when you've got the weapons at our disposal that we have, again, it's going to be a very tough day. There's a lot of younger guys in this room who've not necessarily played for them in recent years. And, it's with the pass rush not being able to do its job and get home too often, with teams running on them all the time, these DBs getting beat up, they're then left susceptible in coverage because, the Cincinnati are having to bring up more guys into the box to defend against the run. They're having to leave the secondary more undefended, and that is making good one-on-one matchups down the field. And that's how you play against them if you're going to do this. You start off with all the run stuff, get them absolutely trying to pile drive up with you and, fill that box and get as many guys in there as possible. Then you just start launching it downfield. And, that's what Knicks did. They got the run game going. The 100-yard rusher on the day, a 60-yard rusher. And then they just started airing it out to all manner of guys, throwing it all over the field. The tight ends, the running backs, the wide receivers. A defense is kind of just putty in your hands when you're able to run on it so easy because you can just then create any matchup that you want. And again, it all comes back to the issue that the quarterback's not there and the offense is not out there very long and the strength levels of these teams just fail. So, as long as you're not in a situation where you're having to throw on him early and a lot because your run game isn't working or you're in a bit of a bind and you're in a hole, which there's no way we should really be in a two-score hole against this team, then I think you're absolutely fine as long as you execute well. So for me, there's neither facet of this defense that terribly concerns me with the way that we play and what we do. As I say, we are going to run the ball first and foremost, and we are going to start creating those gaps down the field for Goff to go after. And, 3 games without a sack now for Goff. So we're protecting him well in the pocket and allowing him to play his best football. They get the timing right with JMO again in this game, then things are going to get nasty very, very quickly. So, they have got a lot of interceptions this year, but again, a lot of teams have been throwing willy-nilly on them because they've done what they can. So you wonder how much of that is properly, this secondary is great. So no, I can't say that I am worried about having to throw on them because I know what the run game's going to do first to set up favorable situations for us.
You can go, Ash?
Yeah, because they have to stack the box and they like their man coverage. They actually play it more than us, which is surprising. They've overtaken us as one of the big teams to run man coverage. They actually run it at roughly, just double check. So they run it about 54% of the time, which doesn't sound a lot, but that's how the things are. It does leave those one-on-ones, and that's the good thing about our receiving core is we have the man beaters. Like Amon-Ra is traditionally good at zone, but he's got really good against man the last couple of years. J-Mo, given his speed, is good against man. Khalif, same reason, speed and agility, you can get open against man. And then now we've got the sort of added bonus of Tesla on the outside where, if it is getting to like the third, fourth quarter and we're up heavy, trot him out there. Just get against these guys where we know we can have success as long as we're not trotting out Kyle Allen and that. But at the same time, give them a couple of these throws against these corners because while they're good, they're set up for man, they're also, not exactly the biggest. Like DJ Turner, I think it's like 5'10", 5'11". Cam Taylor-Britt's only about 6 foot. He'll have the advantage there, and it'll give him a nice old bedding in period after obviously the amazing circus catches the first 2 weeks. This last couple of weeks, he's kind of died down a bit. This could be a resurgent game for him, and that's without even talking about the running backs in the past game and Sam Laporta, who all against their linebackers, they're great in run defense and blitzing, but in terms of coverage, they're not great. So there's no matter what the situation is, there will be a matchup for Goff to take advantage of. It's just about, again, him and Graham doing the right checks to the line, setting up the pass protection right, and Goff making the right reads, which I trust him to do 999 times out of 1,000, and that 1,000th time being the slight undershoot for J-Mo on the crossing route.
Sorry, the Tigers just made an error and lost 2 runs, but they got the out to end the innings, I think.
Nope.
No, they didn't. He's safe. Oh, shit. Bloody hell. Okay, anyway, let's turn our attention to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Cincinnati offense against the Lions defense. Let's talk about the run game first. Ash, I'm going to come to you the first this time. We've seen the stats. We heard it before about how much they are struggling to get any sort of run yardage whatsoever. Chase Brown going at 2.3 yards a click. And 10 carries, 40 yards last week against the Broncos, but they've had so little opportunity to run because they're getting themselves in holes and then they've got to go pass heavy. But, they were running against the Vikings and against the Browns into seemingly brick walls that were just waiting there for them to absorb that pressure. I mean, they really, really have struggled to run the ball. And, what do you put that down to? Is it that, they've kind of tried to piece this together where it's kind of not worked and that's really hurt them? Do you think it's about the type of defenses that they've been coming up against, or do you just think it's a flat out bad run game?
I think it just comes down to the offensive line, and that's partly me being a homer because I absolutely love Chase Brown in that draft class, and I think he is a good back. But when he's getting contacted so close to the line of scrimmage time and time again with his runs, there's only so much he can do, and so it doesn't help that as well with the way that Zach Taylor schemes up his stuff. He doesn't adjust for that offensive line. He does still try to do a lot of these kind of inside zone-y kind of things and all this. And it just means that the defensive tackles of the other team can just crash through the line and get to Chase Brown either before he gets to outside the tackle, or if he gets out there, the linebacker's there to spill it, to wrap it up. It's just, again, as we said with him, Taylor and Jake Browning, Zach Taylor's just not adjusting to his personnel. He's tried to piecemeal this offensive line together. It's not worse. Like as individuals, it looks good on paper. It just doesn't work all together. Like their run blocking grade is the lowest on PFF by a large margin. Their run grade is the lowest by PFF by a large margin. So all these things just going against them, and there's only so much Chase Brown can do. And yeah, and then obviously by the time that maybe they can start finding out the concepts that work, like us against Baltimore, where we found out duo would work and started spamming that. By the time they maybe find a run concept that works against the defense they're going up against, it's too late. They're already 2-3 scores down, and you have to random the run. So it's just unfortunate for Chase Brown that he's just been stuck in this bad situation, because it was the same in week one. They just couldn't run the ball there, and that's with the threat of Joe Burrow back there. So what is it going to be like when on the initial downs we're going to key off against the run and stick our base patch of kitch out there, stack Derek Barnes on the line and be like, right, we're rushing 5 against this run, see if we can get outside us.
And I think I'm going to put this to you and see whether you agree with me, and then just tell me what you think otherwise about this run game. But, Orlando Brown Jr. flamed out of Kansas City, was a bit of someone who wasn't wanted there anymore. Ted Karras has struggled to get paid anywhere. Dalton Risner has been the last guy on the scrap heap for the last few years now. And then Mims came in as a project first rounder who, had barely played any football whatsoever, but he was a traitsy guy. And then Fairchild might be the guy I'm actually most hopeful about. But man, he also hasn't played that much, and he's a third rounder. This offensive line and this run game kind of feels like a bit of the sort of misfit toys offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty damning that Jahmyr Gibbs has more yards before contact than Chase Brown has this entire season, before or after contact. That's kind of showing you everything you need to know. Like 120 of his 130 yards, are after contact. Like, I got 10 yards before contact all season. That's crazy. That's shed. Like, for me, it's a great running back room. It's really good running back room, and on a good team, this is a room that would hurt people, potentially. You've got a very talented rookie in there. You've got another very talented third-year guy in. These guys can get what they need to, but when your running back has 10 yards of 10 yards of production before contact after 4 games, it's just not going to work at all, and that's been the issue. Just too many times where these guys can only do so much when you take a hit and you're bottled up, etc. And they're not superstars either. Like we've got. Again, Gibbs has more yards after contact than Chase Brown has all season. That's after getting hit. Monty has more after contact than Chase Brown's got all season. That's 2 running backs that we've got that are better in that metric. So Yeah, it's a decent but not elite running back room, just backed by nothing in front of them, and not much protection coming from your receivers or your tight ends either. So, it makes your offense one-dimensional. Hence, why you've got a backup quarterback in there. The best thing you want to do for your backup, like the Ravens did for when they had Huntley in when Lamar was hurt in past years, is you kind of just let him be a handoff merchant and let him run a little bit and let him settle into a game. Jake Browning has no opportunity to settle into games because he's got no help. It's all on his arm and he's not good enough. So yeah, the run game is just completely and utterly busted. And coming up against us and what we do, they're just physically outmatched in the trenches completely and utterly at all 9 spots. So it's probably going to be very ugly for them. I mean, we've kept elite rushing teams down to tiny numbers. God knows what we'll do to this one.
Let's turn our attention to the passing game. And Ash, I think when I've watched Browning, and I think I saw this the last time he was a starter when Burrow was injured. When he's kept protected, he can dissect zone coverage actually really quite well. When you've got Chase and when you've got Higgins, they're going to find their space. If you give him time to throw, he's actually reasonably accurate as a quarterback. So when you have a look at the Lions' defensive scheme where they were letting people run free in zone and really not able to get to the quarterback, and quarterbacks were able to dissect that, I look at this team and I think, maybe that could happen here. I think there is a possibility that does happen. I think that Browning can do that. But I look at this offensive line, if you just talked about the run game, and I think, how on earth are you going to give that quarterback enough time to throw? So I think there's enough reason for legitimate concern. But I still think this is a massive advantage for the Lions because this offensive line has just been horrific at trying to give Browning the time he needs to actually do the passing bit.
Exactly. And well, yeah, as we've mentioned with our outside corners being out, it's a advantage to them maybe on the outside. But then you look at their other receivers, and it's such an advantage to us in that situation, even if our linebackers maybe are not in the best in coverage. So looking at Fant, Brown, and Gesicki, they're other guys that have actually caught passes for them so far this season. Noah Fant is averaging half a point lost EPA per target. Chase Brown is minus 0.68 EPA per target, and same with Gesicki. So when they're actually losing efficiency by passing to their other weapons, you can kind of key off on that and be like, okay, kind of like what we did last week against the Browns, where Howard Fanning went off against us. He caught quite a lot of passes, got some yardage. But because we had our safety sort of hanging over the outside corners for the most part, which is something we're going to definitely have to do this week. If Kirby's a go, he's going to be shading one side. Current's going to be shading the other side probably, which means that we're going to be doing a lot more cover 2, cover 4 than we usually do. But there is ways that we can minimize the threat that Jamar and Higgins can have over the top on us. And we force Brownie to go to these lesser options that then you'll have Jack Campbell, Alexander Loney, all there close to hand, Derek Barnes as well, all close to hand, limiting Yak because this is a offense that I think currently ranks last in Yak as well. There's ways that we can minimize it, and then Browning will have to go through his sort of progressions again and again, and it gives that extra half second maybe for a Hutch or an Al-Qadim or an interior pass rusher to get to him. It's a nice sort of snake eating snake situation where pass rush starts getting to Browning, which means that they have to start sending less people, which means that he's got less options to go through. And yeah, it will mean that eventually they'll have no answers. But it's about initially just shutting down those outside receivers, because that's the only way they really moved the ball against the Broncos was it's third down, right? Okay, where's T. Higgins? Where's Jamar Chase? I'm going to chuck a ball up to them on the sideline, a go route. Let's see if they can come down with it, draw DPI, or goes out of bounds and we punt. They basically, when they're under the cosh, turn into a DPI offense, which we come up against. And maybe it's a silver lining that maybe Arnold won't play this week, because we know in those situations, if there's any hint of anything looking like a DPI, the refs will throw the flag and that will hurt his confidence. So maybe it's good that he's potentially missing this week, where we can have a Rocky Sin or an Amik Robertson play on the outside. And if they get dinged for DPI, it's less of a confidence loss than it will be for Arnold, who just keeps accumulating these flags.
And do you agree with that assessment of this passing attack? Because there's no doubt they got the weapons. What do you make Browning when he's actually kept clean versus not? I mean, we've talked about this offensive line already, and how do you see our defensive line and our DBs kind of dealing with it?
I mean, he's a one-trick pony. He's not a rusher, which kind of really narrows down the options he's got. You don't have to fear a rushing threat from Jake Browning. So this is not a case of you having to contain on the edge against him when you're after. You can just flat out go hunt him down and deal with him. And he's shown he's not good under pressure. He's thrown 5 picks already this season. He's only thrown 1 touchdown pass in his last 2 games. Accuracy's fine, but for me, he doesn't possess anything really with his arm that's going to make you go, oh, like I trust my corners one-on-one against. Even with the receivers been as good, I don't think the arm strength's there to hit us too deep downfield. I think there's a lot of easy passes framed up for him. Just got to be aggressive against those. But even with our major guys been out, I don't see that much of an issue coming from the passing attack at all, and it's shown over the last couple of games. Now, might we start off a little slow? I mean, hopefully this week we break the first touchdown drive from every opposing team streak down. But even if we do, like Kelvin will adapt and adjust very quickly and find the best way to get to him. That's all I can really say about this is, Kelvin will find a way to get him very quickly, and he does not have the tools in his arsenal to counter that. And I don't think he's got the unit in front of him to protect him, and he's sure as hell got not the run game to work with him. So, no, I'm not really seeing much there from him at all.
All right, it's time for a score prediction, fellas. And what have you got?
I think I've got 39-6. I think this is going to be a pretty big one, and I don't foresee us giving up much against them. I think we'll put them away pretty early and then sort of coast to an easy win later on. Maybe the backups will see some extended time when we're a few scores up, and that'll be that.
Tigers win, Tigers advance. Beautiful moment.
Take that, Cleveland. Take that, Cleveland.
Oh dear. Poor Guardians. Anyway, at least you won the division. Anyway, Ash, what have you got?
Unfortunately, I can just see it there with descriptive plays now. We saw against the Denver Broncos, who've got a good defense. They can move the ball on those ones. It's afterwards, like with the Chicago Bears. So I have us winning 37-7. They get their opening touchdown score. We clamp down the rest of the game.
All right. I have no idea what I have. So I'm going to go 38-13. I think they'll get a couple of drives where they can get themselves into field goal range, and they'll take them because they have shown us they're not afraid to kick field goals when they really need touchdowns. So they'll get 1 touchdown, a couple of field goals, and we'll run away with it otherwise. All right. Anything else that you guys want to bring up in relation to this game, or maybe we should just have a look at the rest of the weekend slate? All right. Let's have a look at the rest of the weekend slate then. 49ers Rams up tonight. Thursday night football. 49ers are about as injured as you can get in the NFL. Rams, I mean, they look pretty bloody good as a team. Both 3-1 coming into this. What do you think?
Well, it's a bit obvious. I think, obviously, 99 times out of 100, I think the Rams are winning because you look at who the 49ers have got out now. Purdy's back out, so Mac Jones is back under center, and he has no outside receivers to throw to because with Jennings and Parcel out, they're really down to the depths of receiving talent now. So I think the Rams are just going to storm it. And Puka, God, he's going to continue his generational receiver season. This is 3 for 3 for Stafford now. He had Calvin, he had Cup. Now he's making Puka a Triple Crown guy.
Yeah, he needs like 8 catches to be the first receiver in history to have 50 completions to his first 4 or 5 games or something stupid like that. Nuts. Yeah. San Francisco are wheeling out the cast of Blackadder to play tonight, so I really don't see much chance for them in this. Yeah, they're going to hit I think this is the time where they're going to have to hit a rebuild button now because that team is old, it's broken, and it's just not what it was anymore. No one fears it anymore. With these injuries piled up, it's like, okay, this is probably where you start to lose a few, tank a few, and start again.
Next up, Vikings-Browns. Vikings are 3.5-point favourites. The over-under is an embarrassingly low 36.5. Goes to speak to how good both of these defenses are, I think. I'm just going to put it out there, I am not going to be surprised if the Browns win this game. Anyone else?
I have them to win. We saw what that Pittsburgh pass rush did to the Vikings last week. Imagine what the Browns defensive line is going to do to them.
I would be shocked if either of these teams get double-digit points. It's in London. The games in London are usually rubbish. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of offense in this one. I think it's going to be, let's just say, one for the purists. I flip a coin. I don't know who's going to win. I think the Browns are frisky. I'd like to see the Browns win. I think the way they've been playing, they deserve to. But the Vikings are probably going to have a bit too much for them. But it's going to be like 9-6 or something like that, and it's going to be imminently forgettable.
Next up is Raiders at Colts. Colts 6.5-point favourites. And I know that the Colts have been better than expected. And I know maybe the Raiders haven't been what other people wanted them to be. But 6.5 points feels bloody rich. Does it not?
How dare you not believe in Indiana Jones, our Lord and Saviour?
Oh, fuck off. Fuck all the way off. Daniel Jones didn't suddenly get good overnight. I don't understand what all of this is. Like, he is still Daniel Jones.
I agree, though. Raiders are going to win just because Justin Johnson has gone back to his college stance and he's finally remembered how to run the ball. We all saw what happened last week. Me and Ant were very, very thankful for it, given we owed him in fantasy leagues. I can just see it happening. And unfortunately, Indiana Jones continues down into the Temple of Doom and gets another loss.
The Raiders are just a rubbish football team. And they've got a dinosaur of a coach who is living 20 years ago and is coaching like it's 20 years ago. I don't think they're going to lose again. I don't see it. They were cowards for not going for that fourth down the other day against Chicago. And, the coaching is going to let them down there. So I agree with the spread. I actually think Indy will cover it quite easily when all is said and done.
Next up is the Giants at the Saints. Only one win between these two teams so far. Spencer Rattler, through 10 starts, has not won a game yet. But the Saints are favoured at home by 1.5 points against the Giants. Home? I have no question. Just what?
The Saints should never be favoured in a game of football again. The absolute codswallop. Imagine what the prime three are going to do to Spencer Rattler. There's going to be about 10 fumbles forced in this game. They're going to absolutely wreck that Saints offensive line, and even if it is just a low scorer by like a field goal or something like that, this Giants defense is going to tear them to shreds. The New Orleans Saints are primed for the number 1 overall pick, and that's all they deserve this year because they are a horrible football team. There's no way they should be favoured against anybody. I wouldn't favour them against fucking Thomas Aquinas. I really wouldn't.
Thomas who?
Fucking high school team.
Yeah, I know who it is. It's named after a saint.
Oh, fuck off with your pronunciations. I can't be arsed.
Aquinas, I think it is.
I do not care.
Fair. I feel that acutely. I am here for the Cam Scatterbo thing, though. Especially since Neighbours has gone to IR, Scatterbo is the only reason to enjoy the Giants team on offense.
So you're enjoying some of the exciting whites then? Dart and Scatterbo.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Let's move on. Next game up is Cowboys Jets in, well, I mean, I cannot tell you how much I'm going to be rooting for the Jets in this game. The Cowboys away from home are 2.5-point favourites. They're 1-2-1 after a horrific tie. Jets have yet to win under Aaron Glenn, and it's going sour quickly in the New York media with Aaron Glenn already. He is facing a huge amount of pressure. He needs a win in this game. What do you think, boys?
He's not going to get it.
Yeah, they need to stop shooting themselves in the bloody foot, and it doesn't help that Brendan Allen, who was one of their bright spots initially against the Finns, is now on IR. So they've literally got Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, and all the hopes and dreams in the world. And unfortunately, Dak Prescott, for as much as the Cowboys are not looking good, he has had some flashes, and it might just be enough to grind it out against this bad Jets team.
This is exactly the sort of game that Stat Prescott likes to inflate his figures for a season and make himself look better than he is. And as far as the Jets go, I'm all for Aaron Glenn going through the worst season he's ever had in his life and been as miserable as he's ever been in his life, because that will make him better as he goes forward. It's the Dan Campbell recipe. Few wins early ain't going to solve all your issues. That Jets team is bad. It needs to be blown up to the sun, and he needs to be able to rebuild that thing from the ground upwards, and getting some token wins isn't going to help him. So, even if I did want them to win, I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to have a really rough year. But then next year, he should have some good picks to be able to start building that team the way he wants it to be built.
This makes me sad. Statistical leaders for the Cowboys on defense. In tackles, linebacker Jack Sanborn, UDFA, formerly of the Chicago Bears, who I adored. Sacks, James Houston. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Next up is Denver at Philadelphia. Denver 2-2, Eagles unbeaten so far, 4-0, but they're only 3.5-point favourites on the spread. So, Knicks obviously had a rebound game against the Bengals, played very well. In general, the Broncos, after a bit of a slow start, have looked increasingly good. And Philadelphia, for their 4 wins, have looked low-key poor. They are not a world-beating team right now, but they keep grinding out victories, and that is the mark of a championship team when it's all said and done. Interesting matchup, I think, on paper, boys. What do you think?
Can they please remember to pass to their receivers? That would be nice. That would be one way, to keep you actually looking good and keep them happy, considering, your big name receiver, AJ Brown, is literally 5 seconds away for requesting a trade.
I mean, to be fair to AJ Brown, though, he has got through 3 novels on the sideline while he's not been playing. So this is all good.
That doesn't help my fancy team, though, does it?
We need a category for number of books read by player whilst on the bench. Point each.
Jack Fox would win instantly. Come on.
No, Jack Fox plays Nintendo. That's what he does. How many wins he gets on Madden whilst he's on the sideline? Oh, we'd ace it then. Fox would be a top scorer in the entire of fantasy. I don't know. Like you said, the Eagles have not played a full game yet, which is highly concerning. They've not looked anywhere near as good as they can be, and yet they're still winning consistently. And again, incredibly young defense, which is full of pretty much all rookies, which is finding its way more and more by the week. And it's looking a little bit more dangerous week by the week. The ceiling of that team is scary. It is so scary. And the longer the season goes on, the better they're going to get. The Broncos, I mean, I would only say this game in terms of I don't know if the Broncos are that good enough to go to Philly and win just yet. They are a very good football team, but I don't know if they're good enough to go and pull off a shock in Philly. I think they could cover, though, that 3.5. I think it could be close again. But I just don't think they've got what it takes just yet. I think Philly will win, but they might not cover.
I've just changed my pick to Denver. I think they're going to hand them their first loss. I don't believe in this Philly team. Nothing about what they've done so far makes me think that they're actually that good. This time. But we'll see. I believe in Bo Nix. I never did when he was in college, though. Anyway, let's move on to an interesting game if you were a complete sicko. Miami Dolphins against the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, Grandizer. Dolphins are favoured by 1.5 points on the road against the Panthers team, who have got a win on the board now. The analytics say that Carolina should be winning this game 51% of the time. So, if you like the ESPN analytics and favour that over the betting odds, then, it looks like there's money to be made on Carolina here on the spread. Boys, two teams in desperate need of a victory. They've both massively struggled. Tyreek Hill obviously had his massive injury, which was horrific and could be a career ender. The Panthers, there's a lot to like about what they've got out there. Ted McMillan has been incredible. I think he's firmly throwing his hat in there for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know there's a lot of other candidates too, but what do you make of this one?
Panthers are going to win by 3 scores. Sorry, not sorry.
Ted finally gets his first touchdown of the season.
Short and sweet. I like it. Next, Texans at Ravens. Both sides 1 and 3. One does not have a starting quarterback anymore, at least for a little while. The Ravens are in just really bad shape in terms of where they're at, but the Texans didn't need to be injured to be in bad shape for a lot of their team. On defense, they've got it sorted out, but that offense is still suffering. This might be another one for the purists, boys, because this ain't the Ravens team which started the season.
Mm-hmm. Do the Strouds do it again? I think they can. That pass rush against Cooper Rush or whoever they stick back there ain't going to be pretty. And, Derrick Henry's suddenly caught Eric Ebron disease and is fumbling the ball left, right, and centre. I think the Stroud can just about do enough against that depleted Ravens defense to grit out the win.
I'm a sicko, and sickos love chaos, and the greatest chaos will be for the Ravens to carry on losing game after game after game. I want to see a fire sale. I want to see that team blown up, because I want all these, you can have a window for years, guys, to suddenly realise that it can be gone just like that, and your team can be decimated just like that. And, I am all in on the Ravens losing every single game possible. I want those mofos selling at the deadline because there might be some pieces there to be had from them for us. So, yeah, come on, Strouds. Let's get this done. Let's beat them handily. Let's get some real pressure ramped up on Harbaugh. And let's let the Ravens know that their time has passed and it is dead in the water.
Next up is Titans Cardinals. Cam Ward still looking for win number 1 as QB1 of the Titans. Cardinals 2-2, 7.5 point favourites at home. Kyler is Kyler and everything that brings. Trey Benson on IR, meaning that their lead back is out in terms of rushing yards. They also have their other lead back on IR, James Conner. So who the hell is going to run the ball for the Cardinals? I have no idea. Trey McBride is not Trey McBride of last year, at least not in terms of receiving yards as yet. It still could happen. Calais Campbell, though, is very much still Calais Campbell. Boys, where's this going?
It all depends on what I do with my fantasy football team. So if Kyler Murray stays in my lineup, they're going to win 10-7 and he's going to throw 4 picks and it's going to be the ugliest game of all time and he's going to get negative figures. If I put him on my bench for Justin Herbert, it's going to be a 48-0 blowout and he's going to get about 45 points. So I can't tell you what I'm going to do yet, but wait until I make my fantasy choice on this one, because it's either him against the Titans, who at the minute were just god-awful, or it's Herbert against the Commanders. So, on paper, Kyler has the chance to get far more points this week than anyone else. But if I leave him in, he's going to have an absolutely awful day. So I think the Cards win. How much they win by depends on what I do with my team.
Yeah. I'm picking the Cards. My only handcuff is, because they've had both their lead running backs go out on IR the past couple of weeks. Their only rushing threat now is Murray himself. Will the Titans be able to sort of tee off on that and just play coverage and force him to beat them that way. I don't know if they've got the dogs. And, this Cardinals defense is kind of frisky for how mid it is. So give me the Arizona Cardinals.
I am here for Alec Ayomanor as a 4th-round pick who me and Ash, did you like him? Ant, did you like him?
Yes.
I don't know. Did you like Ayomanor?
I like so.
Yeah.
Him being the leading receiver on that team makes me happy. The only one who's actually shown anything at all for the Titans. I think that Calvin Ridley needs to be shot out of a cannon. He's been embarrassingly bad and is contributing to Cam Ward having statistically bad games, which is showing him up to be something that he's not, which is unproductive because he's anything but that. But they keep dropping his passes. It's very frustrating. Anyway, Bucks at Seahawks next up. A battle of 3-1 teams in the NFC. Seahawks 3.5-point favourites at home, but it's going to be a close one. Few questionables in there for the Buccaneers, including Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving obviously probably isn't going to go, so that's going to be a big hit for the Buccaneers. And obviously it's probably one of the bigger trips you can do in the US for a football game, so that's probably not going to help the Bucks. What do you think is going to happen here, boys?
I have the Seahawks winning just. As much as I think Ibuka and Chris Godwin will be able to get some yards on the outside, they'll be able to shut down whoever's running the ball for the Buccaneers. And so it makes them one-dimensional. They can start teeing off on that. And then Mike McDonald can start getting fancy with his blitzes and absolutely put the wind up Baker, who, if he's carrying that injury, might have a tiny bit of the ghost in him. Or if they have to turn elsewhere, it might be Teddy Two Gloves.
Oh, it's tough. The two teams we absolutely despise playing against. I think the Bucks can win. They've only lost one this year. But for me, the Seahawks struggle to put the cards away. They've not looked great this year. I think the Bucks have got a little bit more of a spine to them, even if they are beaten up. And Darnold, I think, is going to struggle against that pass rush. So I've got the Bucks winning.
All right, just a few more to go. Commanders at Chargers. Chargers 3-1. Commanders 2-2. Commanders don't have their starting quarterback. Chargers don't have their starting offensive tackles. This is another game for sickos. The Chargers are 2.5-point favourites on the spread. What do you got here?
Well, obviously, we're going to have to wait for Ant to make his fantasy decision, because if he puts Justin Herbert in, he's going to doom the Chargers. Because as much as like Marion Hampton, if we all saw last year what happens when a Commander's defense is able to make an offense one-dimensional, they can tee off on that. And they've got the help of, obviously, Daniels will be back, so that gives them, something more. And as much as Mariota looked okay in relief, Daniels just gives them something else.
The Chargers feel like they're charging at the minute. They feel like they've thrown a good start away and they've not looked good. So I think, depending on how Jaden comes back with the Commanders, if he does, which he should do, I think the Commanders will win this one. 'Cause I think the Chargers are going to Charger and they're in full Charger mode now.
All right, 3 more to go. Patriots at Bills. Patriots 2-2. Bills 4-0. Bills 7.5-point favourites. Dare I say this is a simple choice?
Yeah, especially since you've got adding to the fact that Bills will be wearing their nice, lovely rivalries uniform. So while the Bills will win, Drake may continue his ascendancy. Looks like my QB1 take is looking good, boys, because Drake May currently is in the Jared Goff zone for EPA and that.
See, this is where I shock everyone. I think the Bills lose. I mean, they've not looked good this year, really. And who have they played? The Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints. They've played the absolute gutter trash of this league so far. And Drake May's looked good. He's having a great sophomore year here. Vrabel seems to have given them the character they needed, the bit between the teeth that they needed, and they've been knocked around by this Bills team for a long time now. I mean, what Bills DVOA for defense is 22nd against the teams I've listed. It's not good. That defense is not as good as it normally is. So I fancy the Patriots to go up there and spring a big upset on them this weekend. I'm fairly confident on that one as well.
All right, Chiefs, Jags. Chiefs 2-2, Jags 3-1. Chiefs obviously coming off a big win. Jags, though, after a loss against the Bengals, have won the rest of their games. Chiefs are 2.5-point favourites on the road. Mahomes looking a bit more like himself, but the Jags have actually been pretty productive. ETN looks like he's making something of this, and then Brenton Stranger's doing some things. That defense is looking a little frisky for the Jags. I don't think this is as clear-cut a Chiefs victory as a lot of people have it.
I think the Jags win. Again, I don't think the Chiefs look good at all this year. They've got injuries in there which is sort of stopping them from the way they're playing. I think the Jags defense has what it takes to shut them down. So, they're frisky at the moment. They've got a little bit of momentum behind them. Got some confidence boosting wins. The offense is looking more confident. And again, the Chiefs have not been playing their best ball. So, I think the Jags win this.
I want them to lose. I want the Jags to lose though, because if the Chiefs come up against us 2-3, and it's at their place, they're going to have to stick up their ass, and they might think, right, this is our time now. We need to show that we're still a good team, and it make it next week much harder. I want them to come in complacent against us, so then we can be the ones to deliver that sucker punch and kind of end their season early. But yeah, the Jags, especially from their linebackers, Devin Lloyd, and that. They're top 10 currently in EPA, sort of defensive EPA stuff with all the interceptions and that. Yeah, they could really give the Chiefs issues, especially since, the Chiefs still haven't worked out how to run the ball. How many years has it been since we've been saying they need to get a proper running back and they still haven't?
Yeah, who's the leading rusher for the Chiefs at the moment?
Probably be Mahomes.
I mean, their leading performer on this year is probably the refs. So, you've got to... that's what it's been like for them. Even the refs can't help them this year, which just shows how bad they are. But if they lose this week and they've got to stick up their ass next week, then all we do is we jam it up further into them, so it dangles out their mouth and they can hang some pretty little bells off it. That's what we do. These teams are going down this year. We're breaking the monopoly of these top AFC teams. Like, let's just stick into them properly.
It is Mahomes. He has 130 rushing yards and he leads the team with that. Just shocking. I hope the Chiefs lose so they feel desperate coming to play us and we kill them. 2-4 Chiefs are going to find it a long way back. Finally, no, that is it. Is it? Was that Monday Night Football? Yeah. Okay, all right.
Because
I had something else open already.
It's the start of the buys, isn't it? So we've got Falcons, Steelers, Bears, and Packers on buys. We've lost 2 games.
Makes sense. It felt a bit premature. Right, we'll come to the end, boys. Anything else you want to talk about before we sign off? The silence is damning. Next show is our live watch-along for Lions Bengals. That'll be going live at about 4:15 Eastern Time, 9:15 UK time. College Football Podcast happened yesterday. Ant, just remind us again what you talked about.
We went through the stat leaders on the season so far after 5 weeks, and then had a little review of week 5 as well.
Next show on the main podcast after Sunday will be the recap show next Monday, so do join us for that. Again, we're having a meetup for the Chiefs game next week, which of course means we won't be doing a live show during that game because we will be watching it live at that meetup. If you want to join us, it's in London, Sunday Night Football. You can follow us on our socials, Roar the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the Facebook group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. At the website, rotluk.com. Please subscribe, rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Just remains for me to thank Ant and Ash for doing this for me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your week. We will see you on Sunday for the Lions going 4-1. Let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.